Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, President and Founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand-Up. So without any further ado, let's get started. It's Tuesday. This week is just cruising along. Hopefully you had an amazing Monday and a great weekend. Things are going awesome. Today, I wanted to talk to you about a new topic. I wanted to talk to you about the product backlog. Now, many people have been debating about the product backlog. Of course, it's one of the original 3 artifacts of Scrum. It's been around forever, and it's the responsibility of the product owner to maintain it. We know this. But the question becomes, is the product backlog the single source of truth for work that's needed? I would say it is. If you're setting a product goal and you're trying to achieve things, you need to make sure that anything that needs to be done is inclusive as part of the product backlog. So the product backlog should contain all the work necessary to create and achieve a product goal. But then the question is, how do we get there, right? Where do you start? And I think that if you start by recognizing that there's a set of discovery that needs to happen. There's some initiation or ideation in order to achieve a product goal. You need to make sure you're in the right mindset, that you can observe, inspect, adapt, move forward, that you're following the empirical process, that you're being transparent, and that you're treating the product backlog like a living artifact instead of like a document that's just out there. I think all that's incredibly important. I think that the initial creation of a backlog lays out what you hope to be built or what is best understood based on what you know now set of requirements or set of theory. The content actually emerges and evolves as the product evolves. So as things change, we change and the backlog changes. But the big thing that I want to point out is anytime you're building a true product backlog, the product never ends, so the product backlog never ends. As long as there's a product, there's a backlog. It's never really complete. It's a dynamic, living, breathing document. And I think that a lot of people forget that. So you need to treat it as such. For example, no one should ever tell a development team to work from something different. Hey, skip the backlog, come work over here. Instead, the backlog should be driven and the work should be organized in such a way that the teams can swarm to the backlog to get the work done. So development team or team should be able to swarm in and get the work done from a single product backlog. I think that from the perspective of the Scrum team, they see things different than maybe the perspective of the product owner. So as a member of Scrum team, I would say the product owner is responsible for making sure everything's in rank order and that the content of the product backlog is well vetted, that the backlog is available and visible, either in its entirety or N+2 for this release and maybe what's coming in the next release, ensuring that the items are understood and easily, clearly defined for them and by the rest of the team with collaboration, and that there's enough product backlog items ready to look forward for 2 to 4 sprints worth of work. I would say even a whole quarter is fine as long as you're not exceeding that. And as long as people understand that the things later in a quarter are loosely combined or loosely defined and put together. I think that this also requires for teams to understand that they need to be prepared with a definition of ready. How does ready look to them? What does ready mean for the team member ready to be built, right? And ready can vary based on whether you're building technology, software, hardware, entertainment, whatever industry you're in, the definition of ready could change. So the team should come to agreement and have alignment on the state of ready for a product backlog item when it enters the sprint. At minimum, when you write a definition of ready, it should contain a short description of what you're trying to do, that it's in a recognized rank order of some kind, that it contains t-shirt size initial estimate, as well as having been estimated by the developers in rapid release planning, that it has some form of value to the end consumer or Moscow on the item, and that it's deemed useful. So you can do this using the INVEST model, that it's independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, and sized appropriately, as well as testable. And you need to have some type of layout for acceptance criteria to know exactly when completeness is done. What's the difference between done, 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 and done, 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 done? You want to make sure you got that down, right? The product backlog refinement needs to be done regularly. Now, some people call out that product backlog refinement or product backlog grooming is not an official Scrum event. That is true. It is an ongoing activity. That is also true. But it should happen every single week. Even in a video, Agile Product Ownership in a Nutshell, which was published in 2012, Henrik Nieberg says that you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this grooming and this refinement for an hour a week, that each team should spend an hour a week with the product owner doing backlog refinement. And I think that's super cool. Too many people try to lean on saying that you need to set aside a set amount of time or an allocated percentage to be able to do this. And I disagree. I think anytime you say the team should spend 10% of their time doing something, nobody's ever going to sit down and figure out what percentage of the time it is and how much time you're dedicated and deduct minutes. And it just becomes cumbersome. If you say that instead we're going to dedicate 1 hour a week to the product owner for a set meeting that's on the backlog, then it always happens and it's always time boxed. So you need to make sure you're time boxing what's happening. So refinement, in essence, is something that you do continuously. It always happens. You can add details. You can break things down. You can refine your estimates. You can refine the order. You can increase your ability to understand how it's in line with the product goal. You can delete items at any time if you need to with the help of the product owner. Developers can assist the product owner in understanding technological feasibility of what they're trying to build. And I think it's just important for people to make sure they're scheduling in the time to do this. And this is one that I did last week with the podcast talking about the difference on Friday between having a to-do list and having something that's planned. I think that instead of making this, 10% of your to-do list or whatever the case may be, I think you need to have a planned event, a short event that makes this happen for an hour a week or whatever the acceptable amount of time is, so that the team can work together with the product owner individually to make sure they understand and they're confident in the work that's being put out. Well, that'll do it for today. Lots of good information, quick order. We encourage you, as always, to visit agiledad.com where you can learn more about this topic and others. We hope that you'll have an amazing week. We look forward to seeing more of you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until tomorrow, do take care.